Oh, well, it's good talking to you, man. For the people that don't know who you are, this is Rob. He owns a YouTube channel called McDojoLife, and this YouTube channel is basically it's basically a business now, right? You're getting he's getting a what's it called? A documentary out soon,
Yeah,
exposing fake gyms, basically. And
yeah, super excited about it. We
yeah.
just finished our pre-production. I was in California pretty much all last week. We finished all of our pre-production. We did a whole bunch of preliminary storyboarding,
Mhm.
just so that way, just in case we, like with a documentary, you never know how documentaries are going to just kind of go.
Mm.
So you can kind of have an idea of what you want, and then that'll help you with a budget. So that's where we are. And then we were like, okay, well, this is the movie we want to make. This is how much it costs, which is like pie in the sky dream,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, okay, that's the movie we want to make. That's what we'll go for. And then we're like, well, this is the cheapest movie we could possibly make for what we want to do. So that's where we actually just hit. So
Mm.
now we can move forward with our film. And then
Congratulations.
right in the middle is probably where we'll meet after investors and everything else. So
Mhm.
pretty excited.
That's awesome. When do you think you're gonna start shooting that then?
We actually have the dates, but I'm saving all of the information about filming and dates
Mm.
specifically for people who have actually donated to the film.
Okay, that makes
Because,
sense.
like, one, we're still crowdfunding, so you got to have a little something for
Mm.
people to want to crowdfund for. But two, to me, the people who are the most important in the film are the people who are involved with the film. It's awesome that there are people sharing and liking and commenting, but we're not using their money.
Mm.
The people whose money we're using are people who have financially backed the film. Those people get all of that information because they paid for it. You
Yeah,
know, I want to give them something for their money.
that makes sense. So, what do you think? I'm guessing like the people that are watching this already have like somewhat of an idea of like who you are and what you do, especially like the Joe Rogan effect, right? Joe Rogan
Yeah,
mentions somebody,
it's
everybody
crazy,
knows
right?
everything. Yeah, it's crazy, man. Um, what do you think the future is going to be for McDojo Life after the documentary, after everything else? Like, what's the ideal, like, perfect future for you?
Well, it could go one or two ways for me. Like either way, I'll be happy. Like I
Mm.
don't think there will ever not be con men, right? Obviously, that's not a reality that could exist. There will always be frauds and con men on the planet. I would hope that after our film, it might lead to a show, which would be cool. It
Mm.
might not. But if it led to a show, then that would be what I would do. If it doesn't, I've spent the last 10 years of my life doing consulting work for martial arts studios to help good businesses grow.
Yeah.
And so I hope that we can still continue to help change the dynamic of how people see the martial arts and view it. I think the martial arts is a very self imploding industry that is eating itself
Mm.
alive because of stupid infighting. My art's better than your art kind of crap. People think that making money in the martial arts is a bad thing, which is the complete opposite. If you make money, you can continue to grow your business, continue to grow your brand, and affect more people. No one's ever taken a martial arts seminar from a bum on the side of the road in a box.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you just don't take that seminar for some reason. I don't know why, but you'll always go to this really nice high-end dojo and have all these people go. Why do we go there? Why not go to the shithole in the wall gym? We go because that one's better, nicer, and can house more people,
Mm-hmm.
right? So there's a double standard in the martial arts that making money is a bad thing, but at the same time, you have to make money to be viable and
Yeah.
sustain in this industry. So I really hope we can switch that thought process around and help good people who really have good intentions make good money and teach more people.
Mm. So I'm guessing people that have heard of McDojo Life but don't like understand the full concept. They're gonna be like, how do you know like when a gym is like fake or not? So do you just want to go over? I know there's like five, I think, criteria that you use.
Yes, sir.
So you just
I'm
want to go
glad
over
that that's
that.
starting to stick. Yeah, since I started, I've had five very specific roles
Uh-huh.
that I adhere to. If they don't follow under those five rules when you watch a video, I'm posting it because I think it's funny. All
Mm-hmm.
right, that's
Yeah.
it. All right, but the five rules are simple. One is no touch knockouts,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or anything like that, just unrealistic technique. It's okay, like let's say for instance, if you do Taekwondo and you do jump spinning kicks and stuff
Mm.
like that. I mean, hell, look at Raymond Daniels. He makes it work. It's okay if you do that. If you label it as what it really is. Like if it's stunt work, okay, it's stunt work, right?
Yeah.
You could do anything under that umbrella, and we know that it's not self-defense.
Mm.
What I hate is when something is mislabeled because mislabeling like things under your kitchen sink will get you killed. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? It's the same thing to me in martial arts. If it's martial arts and it's for self-defense, it's okay to label it as such.
Mm.
If it's martial arts like no-touch knockouts, that is not self-defense. That
Yeah.
is a cult-like behavior that will get you seriously hurt. So that's number one, is no-touch knockouts. Number two is unsafe training practices and cult-like behavior. So, like the videos of the guys making people stand in a line and just allowing them to get hit in the
Mm.
head repeatedly. Like, I had an argument with a guy just yesterday who was so devout that that was such a good idea. He
Oh
kept trying to
no.
explain to me how it was a good idea. And I was like, dude, I'm so, so sorry. Like, because that guy really believed it. And
Yeah.
I felt so bad because there's nothing you can do. He's lost. I can't help that dude. The
Yeah.
CTE is already sinking in. Uh, but yeah, so that's rule number two. Rule number three is shady business practices, which is what most people consider a McDojo, is just people who financially rip people off.
Mm.
I don't think there's anything wrong with contracts. I don't think there's anything wrong with even paying for belt promotions. I think the big thing that bothers me is lying about that.
Mm.
Like if you walk into a martial arts studio and that's not already understood, and then magically you're paying hundreds and hundreds of dollars out of pocket you didn't expect,
Yeah.
that's a lie. That's a con. If you walk in and you are aware that all of that is a part of the deal and you still decide that that's what you want anyway, well,
Mm.
that's fine. That was your decision as a grown adult. So that's number three. Number four is lying about your belt rank and fight record. So that's a huge deal in this industry. A
Mm.
lot of people do it. They try to pad their resumes by adding stuff that's not really true. And that's how people get seriously hurt, is because if you're willing to lie about your fight record or your rank, then what's going to happen is you're probably going to lie about techniques that you've
Yeah.
learned,
Yeah.
try to embellish other things. So that'll get people hurt. And then the last one is the most important to me that everybody overlooks, and they're always so shocked when I say it, is pedophiles. There are so many pedophiles in the martial arts industry. It is
Yeah.
ridiculous. Just as a test, if anybody doesn't believe me, just go to Google, type in martial arts molestation, and I guarantee you within the last 2 weeks, some martial arts instructor got arrested for molesting a child.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it is, right? But those are my 5 standard rules because I
Mm.
feel that those are the most important, and most everything else is just fairly petty arguing.
Yeah. So, with all these criteria in mind, what would you say was like the the gym or dojo or whatever that had like the most of these, like the biggest McDojo that you've
Man, damn, that's a tough one. Um, I would say one. There's a couple.
Mhm.
I've noticed like the Bujinkan, like Bujinkan Ninjutsu,
Mm.
is a really big cult. It is a cult, hands down. I read this book. If you don't mind
Yeah,
me
of course. Yeah,
sharing,
yeah, yeah. Go
so
ahead.
I'm reading this book right now. It's called The True Believers. It's by a guy named Lewis Martin, and the inscription on the front says a powerful and engaging testimony to the social mechanics of a martial arts cult. So this guy lived and actually studied in a martial arts cult
Mhm.
for about 7 years. He started as a student. He got brainwashed and worked his way up to being an instructor. And one of those particular arts was Bujinkan, in
Mm.
which he does describe. And if you start talking ill will about jujitsu, right, you don't really have too many people coming out of the woodwork to defend it because it speaks for itself.
Yeah.
Same thing with like, a lot of people talk crap about a lot of different arts, most of which I don't agree. But when
Mm.
it comes to that one, it's an art that's built on a lie, that's perpetuated through nonsense. It's dangerous. It's abusive.
Mm.
So like that, I can think one, lying about belt rank and fight record is a big part of that because they lied about the entire art.
Mm.
Ninjutsu is not a set group of movements. It's more like ideals and principles than anything else. And then magically they come up with all kinds of techniques that the ninja did. How the
Yeah.
hell did you figure that out? The next thing they do is shady business practices by perpetuating that lie, which is basically fraudulent activity in my mind. Unsafe training practices. They do things like the Saki test, which is you have somebody sitting down on their knees in like a seiza position facing forward.
Oh,
And
I've heard
the,
about
the
this.
instructor, yeah, will bring up a shinai, which is like a bamboo
Mm.
sword. And you're supposed to sense and feel when you're about to get hit. And then the guy comes down, wham, and tries to crack you on top of the head. And you're supposed to use your magic
Mm.
sensory voodoo powers to know that's going to happen and move out of the way. It's a scam as well because the students that they want to pass the test, they kind of signal
Mm.
or they slow down. It's very obvious in any of the videos. The
Yeah.
students that they don't want to pass the test, they crack them as hard as they can with the stick on top of the head. So that's unsafe and ridiculous and useless. Like people are like, oh, well, you're using your senses to feel. I was like, I guarantee you, if this is a real scenario, right? There's not going to be a moment unless it's like a beheading, right? And then at that point, you're still going to die anyway.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be a beheading. It's going to be me popping out of nowhere and stabbing you or hitting you with something, whether it be my fists, a knife, whatever. And I was like, that should be the real test. Walk around in your day-to-day life and just have your instructor just randomly follow you on a day you weren't expecting it, and then pop out of nowhere with this rattan stick and crack you in the head. Now, if you move out of the way, then I will be impressed. But up to that, it's a staged fallacy. So I think that they're probably one of the worst. Kyosho Jitsu is another one that's just horrific. A lot of contradictory information coming from the instructors. One is that it's a supplementary martial art, so it's not meant to be learned alone. You're supposed to take this and add it to another martial art. But then at the same time, they accept new students who have never taken martial arts before into their studios.
Yeah, that's weird.
I was like, I can even give you that if you like only accept people who've trained before. Okay, well, all right. Well, at least there's a barrier. They can make their own decisions. But you get to brainwash them early into thinking they can knock people out with their mind. Like hot garbage, dude. Those are the worst to me.
When you mentioned when you were mentioning the 5 criteria, that brought back a memory. So one of the first martial arts I've done with Taekwondo, and Taekwondo is cool. Like it's traditional, so you're probably not going to be using it like in a street fight. But when you're there, I was younger, so I was asking how am I going to use this like for self defense? So he comes and he gives me this this rubber knife, right? And I'm like, okay. He's like, hold it here. I'm like, okay. So I hold it out, and he kicks my hand with like a crescent kick, and the knife goes flying. And he's like, so you could defend yourself with knife fights with kicks. I was like, okay. And like 2 months after I left, when my contract ended. But that was crazy. I thought it was a good gym until that happened. So you got to be careful with that.
I've seen different points of view. Like one point of view, like in that scenario, because that's like the oldest scenario in the book, right? That's old school 1970s Shaw Brothers Kung Fu. Huh, damn, you kicked it. Of course it's going to fly out of my hand. But no, it's not, because I'm going to hold on to it because I planned on stabbing you repeatedly with it. So I'm going to hold on pretty damn tight to this thing, I promise. But one thing I did notice about that particular scenario is somebody did bring up a point, and I was like, that's kind of a good point. It's kind of still bullshit, but it's still kind of a good point, which was, what would you rather do? Would you rather put your bare hands in the way of a live blade, or would you have some protection, like your shoe? And I was like, well, that's still crap. But I see where you're coming from, because I could still get cut and stabbed in the leg. I could still, like knife fighting and stuff like that is such a dangerous thing to think about, because the honest truth is you're going to get cut. Yeah. Even if you have the knife, chances are still good you're going to even cut yourself. But yeah, the whole kicking the knife out of the hand thing, probably not going to happen, but maybe using it as a ranged defense to try to give yourself space to get away, possible. But in either case, you're probably going to get stabbed repeatedly. So we're talking about fantasy world, and then when reality hits, you're getting stabbed,
Yeah, that's people need to be more careful with that stuff. But I'm trying to think, I feel like even in just gyms and stuff, just weightlifting gyms, there's I feel like Planet Fitness would be in the McDojo of
So the only reason I would even call Planet Fitness that, one, I do think the lunk alarm is a little ridiculous. Yeah. All right, it's a gym. You're gonna make noise, especially if you're working hard. All right, you lift some heavy weight, try to be silent. I'm just saying, lift heavy ass weight and try to be quiet. All right, it's gonna be very hard to do. Right, lift heavy weight and then gently bring it back down to the floor as easily as you can. Like sometimes you just want to drop it because you just did something that was astronomically hard, right? And you want to feel good. It feels good to just take the weight and slam it down after you pick it up and go, yeah, in your fucking face. That's what I do. And you can't do that at Planet Fitness. I don't think you can wear tank tops, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, there's some weird rules.
Yeah, can't have a gallon jug of water there. That's another thing. And then of course they have like Bagel Mondays and Pizza Tuesdays,
Yeah.
which is completely counterproductive to what you're trying to do there. Not like showing somebody who's completely addicted to food delicious bagels and pizza right when they walk in the door. Yeah, that'll help their
Yeah.
self-control. It's like having a heroin addict walk across like a whole bunch of bags of heroin before they go to rehab. Like, yeah, this is gonna be great for me. I'll just walk over the heroin. No, and then they're gonna dive on it and start shooting up because they're addicted, man. You know?
It's okay because at Planet Fitness they'll limit you, so you only get 2 pizza slices.
Oh man. Oh, delicious. That's what they think anyway.
so, so what happened like with the whole Joe Rogan thing? I'm sure people are like wondering after he mentioned you, like what was like the process of like blowing up after that?
It's very strange. I mean, I've been working on McDojolife for years. And yeah, his shout out definitely gave me a huge bump.
Mm.
I've had like these bumps in time when it comes to the page. Those were huge. But I did a fight, a dude versus a chick, like MMA sparring match a couple years back,
Mm-hmm.
like years ago. And when I did that, that was a big deal. Like that was a huge deal. So I had a huge bump from that. The Rogan bump was very cool because it was strange,
Yeah.
because it's kind of surreal. Like you go from, I think I initially, when he first did that, had about 50,000 followers on Instagram.
Mm.
And then at that point, he shouted out something. I think it was like a Mind Bullets video where it was a guy who was pretending to do a no touch
Yeah,
knockout.
yeah,
That
that's
was
what
huge.
it
I got
was.
like a huge uptick.
Yeah.
I think it was like 15,000 new followers or something like that
Mm.
overnight.
That's
I was like,
crazy.
holy shit, okay.
That's
Took me
crazy.
years to do that, so that's nice. And then then he did it again. And then
Mm.
he did it again.
Oh,
And
really?
then he talked about it on his show. Then he talked about it on his show again. Then he did a 15-minute uh thing where him and another guy during an interview just started going through clips on my page and
Yeah.
just started laughing at it. And then like that's when it really blew up.
Dude,
That
you
like
gotta
gave
go
me
on the Joe Rogan experience.
dude, I don't know. That's not up to me. It's very interesting because I want to respect him as much as humanly possible because there's not really much that I want from him.
Mm.
I don't want anything.
Yeah.
I think it's cool that he enjoys it, all that good stuff. I would love to be on the show.
Yeah.
That would be cool, but like if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. I think at this point though, what probably will happen is the documentary will hit. If we do a good job on that, then that will probably
Mm.
come. Because at that point, I feel we would have made a real impact. Right now, I am basically a curator. So, as a curator, I find all of this information, I put it together, and then I have been using YouTube to do breakdowns to talk about who these people are, what's going on, why people possibly fall for this stuff. So, that's been nice. But with it being not being able to be as consistent as I want to be, it's almost like it kind of seems like I'm just regurgitating information, and I don't like it to seem that way.
Hmm.
So I don't know. We'll probably see that happen most likely if it ever will happen
Hmm.
after the documentary.
Yeah. So one day, hopefully, he'll
I
or
mean,
you'll hit him up, or he'll hit you up, or something. Somebody
he's,
finds a video.
like the strangest thing is he is an incredibly generous human being.
Hmm.
He doesn't want anything from you if he does something for
Yeah.
you. He just does it because he wants to. Like Miriam Nakamoto, she needed some serious knee work, and he completely took care of that for her.
Yeah,
And
Jordan's a nice
he
man.
didn't tell her he was doing it. He just did it. Like I have a great story. It really meant a lot to me because it was unexpected.
Hmm.
On my birthday last year, I needed to go to Atlanta for something that had to do with McDojolife.
Hmm.
When I went to Atlanta, I noticed, oh man, he's got tickets for his show that happen to be in Atlanta while I'll be there. I
Yeah.
was like, let me go ahead and get the tickets. Well, once the tickets released, I wasn't able to get them that day. I was
Yeah.
busy with something. So I was like, I'll just get them the next day. I went to go get them the next day and they were sold out.
Ooh.
So I wrote him a message and I was like, hey man, I hate to bother you, but I noticed that your show is sold out. Will you be doing a second release of tickets? Because sometimes they'll do that, right?
Yeah.
They'll only sell so many and then they'll expand the auditorium or the theater
Hmm.
or they'll do another night. And he was like, no, I'm sorry, it's sold out. But hey, you have 2 tickets waiting for you at will call.
Oh
I was
yeah.
like, oh, that's awesome. And
That's
so I
awesome.
went. And then the next day, I happened to be in Atlanta still. I'm eating lunch and I get a random message and it was from him. And he was like, hey, man, are you still in Atlanta? And I was like, yeah. He goes, do you plan on going to the fights tonight? I was like, well, I don't have any tickets.
Mhm.
And he was like, well, there are 2 tickets waiting for you at will call. And it was for the Israel versus Gastelum fight, which was the fight.
Oh, yeah.
And it was so cool to be like 3 rows back
That's
from the
awesome.
cage. And
Yeah.
all of that was just because he was being nice. He wanted nothing from me. It wasn't even like I could go see him or talk to him because he was busy. It
Mhm.
wasn't like I could repay the favor ever. He's just a nice human being. And so I try to give him that space. I don't like asking anything from him. And I think that it's interesting that people always tag him in my stuff, which is cool, right?
Mhm.
But then people like they'll do these things where like, hey, we should make a petition to get you on this show. And I'm like, please don't. Please don't bug this dude, man.
Yeah.
Like if it happens, it happens, man. Like if it doesn't, it doesn't. It's just life, It's
Yeah.
not the end all be all, you know.
That does make sense. And I'm sure like enough people already message him about that, like people who probably don't even know him, to the point like he just doesn't want to check that stuff.
Yeah, probably. Well, I'm actually really surprised. Like occasionally he's maybe I don't know what he does with anybody else's
Mhm.
messages, but occasionally we'll have like a quick little back and forth, and that'll
Yeah.
be it. They're not ever long conversations. I know he's a very busy man,
Mhm.
but it's kind of interesting. Like I kind of respect that
Mhm.
because at that position, you have that many people who follow you. You need to keep your circle small.
Yeah.
You
That's
don't want to expand that any farther than you have to because there's always probably somebody looking to take advantage of
Mhm.
you for an end, looking to use you to get what they want. And I never want to fucking be that guy. I
Yeah.
appreciate the fact that he likes my stuff. I appreciate the fact that he talks about it and shows it, but I'll never, never bug that dude for anything. Like, he already did so much for me. I mean, look, just because of those shout outs and, of course, like me doing what I do every day, but I do this for a living now.
Yeah.
I'm literally getting paid right now to do this.
That's
How
awesome.
cool is
Yeah.
that? You know?
Yeah. What was I gonna say? I hate when like you think of something and it just flies right by.
Oh, it happens. I get it.
What was I gonna say, man? Oh, so when you like actually went to the fight and everything, you never got to like see him in person?
No, it was
Oh
like,
wow.
well, because he was commentating,
Yeah.
right? And
Oh,
so,
true,
like,
true, true. Yeah.
I was like, well, I walk over there, but there's like security everywhere. So,
Yeah.
like, if you ever get a chance, I don't know if you've been to like a live UFC or whatever,
Mhm.
but you have the stands or whatever, then you have the ground floor, and on the ground floor, that's all sectioned off, and there's a ton of security everywhere,
Mm.
right? And so the area in which fighters walk, the area in which coaches and commentators are, and some press, very few, are like in this little bubble
Mm.
that's right beside the cage.
Yeah.
And so there's like a gap between the seating and the cage. So I couldn't just go walk over there if I
Oh,
wanted
okay.
to,
Yeah. That makes sense.
So, and he's a busy dude. He's literally on live doing
Yeah.
commentating. I wasn't going to bug the man,
Yeah. Yeah. So you've never like actually talked to him in person. It's all just like
Not
one. That's
once.
really cool. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like a very odd thing. It's
Yeah.
because like I want to be like super grateful and just shake the
Yeah.
man's hand and say thank you, but at the same time, it's like I don't want to encroach in his
Yeah.
space. It's like an odd place to be, you know?
That's so interesting. I thought like you would have like maybe talked to him at some point if he's like hitting you up and stuff. That's so weird. That's
It's
awesome.
like I said, he's just
Such a
like
nice guy.
yeah, he's just a nice person. He's just like he's not like he doesn't know me and I don't know
Mhm.
him, right? So it's not like magically we're buddies or anything,
Yeah.
but it's like he just did something nice
Mm.
just to do it. I was like, dude, that is the coolest shit ever. And so like it really makes me want to pay it forward. Like I have like reach now, I have influence. I'm able to do something that I love for a living,
Mhm.
hopefully make an impact and help people in this industry. But yeah, like I really, really want to do something great for people. Like me and the crew, now that me and the crew were talking about it, we were really hoping if we reached our 250 mark for
Mhm.
our documentary, we were going to take $20,000 of that and just randomly give it to somebody who really needed it. But we're not going to reach that mark because we only raised 20,000, so we can't afford to do that. But like my sponsors are really really cool, so I've been collaborating with them to try to do stuff like that. And I think this December is when I'm going to finally get a chance to do it is take like all my Patreon money, like
Mhm.
whatever Patreon money I have in the month of December, get all my sponsors involved and just find somebody who's in need and just for their new year, just give them all that Patreon money and give them supplies for a whole year from all my sponsors.
That's
And
awesome.
just hopefully that'll give them like a little leg up on the year, you
Yeah.
know? I've always like wanted to be in that position. I just never made enough money to ever do it.
Yeah.
And so now it'd be nice to be able to do that often or help people. Like that's like the coolest shit ever. I mean, to
Yeah.
me anyway.
No, that's yeah, definitely. And it's nice that you're that kind of guy. Like you seem like you just care a lot for other people. And a lot of people like try to, I don't want to say a lot of people, but there's people out there who'll try to like leech off of other people. So like for example, with Joe Rogan, like message them once to be like, "Hey, give me a shout out, like let me be on your show." Or like nobody really thinks about just like giving people uh giving back to other people after they've like made it to a certain point. So it's just like nice. It's
Yeah.
refreshing to hear that.
Yeah, it's funny because like I think people read what you type
Mm.
and the tone in which they want you to
Mm.
have.
Yeah.
So like if I type something out to somebody and they're having a bad day or they already look down upon me for something, when they read it, they're gonna read it as like an attack or an
Mm.
insult,
That's so
right?
true.
Like, but if they're kind-hearted or they're polite, that's how they're gonna read that
Mm.
comment, right? Unless it's just blatantly like rude, where somebody's like calling somebody names and things like
Mhm.
that. And I've noticed that a lot on the page. It's like people already have like an interpretation of who they think you really are without ever speaking to you, without ever asking you a question. Like I answer every direct message I ever get,
Mhm.
every one of them. I
Yeah.
get like 250 a day on
Yeah.
Instagram.
It's
Like
tough.
I work 13 hours a day. So I take the time to do all this, right?
Mhm.
But it always seems like the people who like to throw that hate or that shade are always the people who never took the time to reach out to you, talk to you, get to know you, ask you any questions, right? And so for me, whenever I run across those people, I block them and move on with my life.
Yeah.
Like I'm very big about having like I like having a positivity in my life. I like having a good day. I like being able to help people. People are like, not every day could be a good day. Sure, it can.
Mm.
Why not? Like it's your outlook, right? And so whenever people like bring that negativity in or start trying to cuss me out online and stuff, if they have a difference of opinion, cool, let's talk about it. I'll
Mhm.
even go live with pretty much anybody to discuss the arts because
Yeah.
that's the whole
Yeah.
point of
I
the
see that on
page.
Instagram.
Uh, but if it becomes an insult contest,
Yeah.
I'm not going to join in and I'm going to block them because what's going to happen is it's going to eat up my feed.
Mm.
Uh, and then all I'll see is people like getting at each other, and that's not what I want to read all day.
Mhm. So how what's the reasoning like behind like messaging or checking like and replying to every single message behind that? Like doesn't that get to the point where you just like you're using too much of your time or you just feel like there's like too much negativity in the DMs, or is there like a good
Oh,
ratio of like positivity to negative
dude, almost,
negativity?
I would say 99% of the direct messages that I get are
Mhm.
nothing but
That's
positivity.
awesome. That's awesome.
It is the
Mhm.
coolest thing. Like
Mhm.
I try to screenshot some of them too when I get the chance, or if I'm in a place where I remember to do so,
Mhm.
because I've been hitting the head a lot over the years. But
Yeah.
like whenever somebody sends me a message, like one guy was like, "Hey, last year you talked to me and I asked you a question about joining a martial arts studio." He goes, "I found one now. I took your advice and I love it here. Thank you so much."
Yeah.
Like
That's
that's
awesome. Yeah.
awesome. You know, you actually guided somebody to make a decision for themselves
Mhm.
that was positive for them. Fucking God, that's cool to me.
Yeah.
Or like people will send me clips and videos all the time, which is great because that's like research for me. 75% of the time, it's stuff I've already seen. But I always take the time to say, hey man, thank you for sending that. I appreciate it.
Mhm.
Or thank you for sharing that with me. Because to them, this isn't our first interaction. Just because it's not the first interaction I've had with thousands of people doesn't mean it's not our first interaction. So every time you talk to somebody, it means something to them,
Mhm.
you know? So like
Yeah.
that means something to me. And I don't want to be that guy. Just to kind of add, by the way, I
Mhm.
did give myself two personal rules when I started McDojolife.
Mhm.
I will stay with them for as long as I possibly can. One, I will answer every message that's ever sent to me as
Mhm.
best as I can. Very hard to do across multiple
Yeah.
platforms,
Yeah.
but Instagram it's much easier to keep up with because there's
Mhm.
multiple inboxes.
Mhm.
And the other one was I will go on anyone's show who asks. Period.
Oh,
I
that's
don't care if
awesome.
they have no followers. I don't care if I have no
Mhm.
followers. I don't care if they got a billion. I don't care if I have a billion. It does not matter because I'm not that important, right? I am just a dude who really likes his job. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
And so if people find that I'm important enough to speak with, and I think that they're not important enough to speak with, that makes me an asshole, right? Like, why not? Like, what else am I doing? You
Mm.
know, this is all I do is run a social media page. Then it is work. Don't get
Mhm.
me wrong. I do work very hard at this
Yeah.
job, and it is a job,
Yeah.
right? But at the same time, what else? What else am I doing? You know, like if I'm busy, okay, I'm busy. If I have something to do, okay, I got something to do. Sometimes I've messed up scheduling before, and I do feel bad about that. But
Yeah.
like, I'll push it off. We'll do it again.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't mind doing it because I like talking about the martial arts. It's
Hmm.
why I started this. You know, it's my hobby and my job and my passion since I was 12.
That's
You know,
awesome. Yeah.
it's cool. I got a cool job. You know.
That's the dream job. um, so what do you train in right now? Is there any specific art you train in, or are you like just MMA or
No, no, no. I'm really liking jujitsu. I've been doing
jiu-jitsu? That's
jujitsu
awesome.
right now for 9 years.
Mm.
I am terrible at it, to be honest. Like I'm a 9 year purple belt,
Okay.
right? So
I knew
I'm
a
not
10-year blue
great.
belt, so.
You know, I'm not great. I'm not the best in the world. I'm not a competitor. I did competing from the time I was 12 till I was
Mm.
about 24, 25 or so, somewhere in there, somewhere in my 20s. I don't know. I was drinking a lot, partying a lot during that time, so I forget. But like I competed heavily during that time.
Yeah.
And so by the time I got out of it and I realized there was more to life than just being inside a gymnasium or
Mm.
being inside a hotel lobby, right? I was like, are visiting the world, but only seeing the airport. Like all of that stuff was like eating at me. I
Yeah.
competed internationally for 2 years and I didn't do well. You know, in order to get to that team, I did really well on a state level.
Mm.
But then when we started doing nationals and internationals, I just realized I was not cutting the mustard. And I was up in like the top 10, but that's, to be honest, was mostly because I could just afford to go to more tournaments than most
Yeah.
people. You know, so like of course I'm racking up more points.
Mhm.
Half of these people can't afford to go. They were beating the shit out of me over here
Yeah.
in Washington. Now I come over here to Florida, guess what? I'm not getting beat up anymore because they're not there, you know?
Yeah.
So I realized quickly maybe this isn't for me. Like I wanted to go down the professional fighter route.
Mm.
Did amazing as an amateur. I did great in state level, but when it came to like international competition, I was getting beat to the point where I was like, I'm never really getting past fourth place. If I ever did make it to the finals, I was always losing to get a
Mm.
second. You know, it was like it just wasn't in the cards for me. You know, I did have my plateau, and that's fine. There's
Mm.
nothing wrong with that. Not everybody's going to be at that level. But that doesn't mean I don't know what I'm doing, and it didn't mean that I didn't love doing it. I just lost the fire to compete
Yeah.
because I wasn't doing it for anyone else. You know, I was doing it for me, and then when that went away, I was like, well, I'll do something else.
Mhm.
So, you know, and then after that, I opened up a martial arts studio. I owned that for about 4 years. Then after that, while during that time I was learning jujitsu, I was like, while I'm teaching karate, I'm gonna go learn jujitsu.
Yeah.
And so I started doing that. And then my jujitsu academy hired me out to teach their kids classes. And I was like, all right, cool. And then I started really falling in love with like teaching and breaking down the mechanics of jujitsu.
Mm.
And then I got fascinated with that. And then that company offered to buy out my karate school because I did things a little differently.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, cool. They bought me out, and then I taught jujitsu until now. And I was their striking coach there, of course, because I had a very large kickboxing background.
Mhm.
Helped a lot of MMA guys get ready for their stuff, mostly the striking, you know, because my takedown game it blows. But then, like, you know, like after that, McDojoLife started blowing up because during that time I was working on that. And now I feel if I really want to make an impact and leave something that's long lasting in the community, it seems like this is the way to go.
Mhm.
I feel really, truly feel in my heart that if I continue down this path, I can actually help and change the dynamics of the martial arts landscape by working hard to show people that we're no longer going to tolerate people who are lying and cheating and fraudulent, even though there's no regulating body to the martial arts.
Yeah.
We can all be the regulating body. We can
Absolutely.
all self regulate this. We just have to choose to do so and go past stupid finger pointing of you do karate, haha, you suck. Who cares? Okay,
Yeah.
do karate, enjoy it. You do you, brother. If that's something that you like, cool. You do taekwondo, cool. You do aikido, cool. But if any of those five rules are broken, we should all say something because most of that stuff is illegal.
Mm.
You know?
Yeah. So purple belt, but no cauliflower ear. That's awesome. I'm jealous. You
Yep.
doing it?
Well, it's something that I learned about from like this guy who's Alex. We call him he's Professor Alex at our studio,
Uh
right?
huh.
And so I guess it's a genetic thing that some
Uh.
of us just don't get it.
Yeah.
And I've been punched in the ear repeatedly over the years, never got it. Um, he does this thing, Alex does this thing where he'll warm his ears up. And so he'll like roll them around
Ah.
before he spars and trains.
Yeah.
and then he'll just go spar and train, and he doesn't wear a headgear. He's wrestled his entire life, not even a hint of cauliflower.
No way. I need to do that then. Mine
Yeah,
started swelling
it's
up like
crazy
my
to me.
first
Like it's
month.
what he does. Like, but he doesn't even have a little hint of cauliflower, and
Yeah,
that man is a monster on the
that's
mat.
awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I'd had something cool,
Really?
cause like, yeah, man, cause like, fuck it, like I got scars all over my face, got broken nose from fucking kickboxing, but no, you got new cauliflower. So like, no, I was at a bar one time and I was wearing the Jiu Jitsu Academy shirt that I train at. And I came from training and went right to the bar. And so I was at the bar and some random dude walked up to me and he goes, "Hey man, you train?" And he was like kind of confrontational in the question.
Yeah.
I was like, "Yeah, man, Rob, nice to meet you." He goes, "How come you don't have cauliflower in your name?" Oh my God. I was like, then I had to explain to him it's not how everybody gets it,
Yeah.
right? Some people don't. And then
That's
I had to
funny.
go into like, have you ever heard of a keloid?
I have not, no.
So some people when they scar, right? Like when I scar, I just get lines. Like you just
Okay.
get a discoloration in the skin. Some people when they scar, they get keloids. And
Uh-huh.
so the scar will bubble up, right? And
Okay.
so you'll get these like raised bumps that are
Uh-huh.
scars, right?
Uh-huh.
Not everybody does that. Well, cauliflower is very similar. Excuse me, not everybody gets them, and I wish I did. Because
Yeah.
then people would, they stop bugging me about it. At least I'd look a little tougher. But
Yeah,
I
for
kind of
sure.
like this like nerdy, non-imposing look to me. It's kind of come in handy over the years.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you coming on, Rob. Before we end it off, do you just want to give everybody a like plug in your social medias or anything else you want to plug in?
Yeah, cool. Pretty much find me on most any social media platform under McDojOLife, except for Reddit, which is under the McDojOLife, because some tool decided to get in there and take McDojOLife and never post and never answer his inbox. So, yeah, we got like 5,000 members or something, almost 6,000 inside McDojOLife on Reddit right now. It's just been a slow process because I still haven't figured it all out. But yeah, so, and then we're working on the documentary. If you want to know more information about that, you want to keep up with it, you want behind the scenes content, you want updates, you can go to McDojOLife DOC. That's McDojOLife Doc on Instagram, and then that will give you all the behind the scenes footage. I will say this, just so you know, this is highly irritating, and I will just delete you. All right. There is a big banner like in the bio. It tells you exactly what you need to do to be able to get into that page. McDojo Life Doc is a private page just for people who have financially backed the film. If you read the bio, it's going to be the thing right before you click follow. Right above that, right above it, is going to be some words. Those warm words will formulate sentences, and those sentences will guide you to what you're supposed to do. If you hit follow, but you don't follow the directions, I'm just going to remove it. I'm not going to allow you in. So save us all the time. I made a post today, and I have over 75 people who've asked to join that group. Absolutely not a one person followed the directions at all. So I have to go through now and write 75 people individually,
Oh
one at a
no.
time, direct messages to let them know, hey, just so you know, you need to go do A, B, and C, right? And that takes up a lot of
Yeah.
time. And what's even worse, the reason I have to do that and I can't copy and paste is because Instagram, in all its wisdom, decided that if you copy and paste too many
Let's see.
times,
Yeah.
it considers it spam. And then it will make my job even harder because I have to write down your name, go all the way over to McDojo Life, then I have to find you on McDojo Life. Then I have to write you an individual message from there to
Yeah.
tell you what to do on the other page. So, needless to say, I think I would much rather jump naked in a river full of piranha penis first than do that all day. So,
That's funny, man. Yeah. All right. Well, like I said, I really appreciate you coming on, and it was great talking to you, man. Maybe we'll
yeah,
do a part two
anytime.
sometime. Thank you, man.
I appreciate you, dude.
Yeah, of course. Have a good one, man.